Now it's time to reach back in the archives of the University of Alabama and welcome in legendary player for the Alabama Crimson Tide. He's part of the broadcasting crew for the New York Jets, Marty Lyons. Welcome back to T-Town. I hope you're doing well.
I am doing well, Ryan.
We're counting down not just the days, the hours until college football. This has been a long offseason, Marty Lyons.
It really has, and the Jets opened up last week against the 49ers here in New York, and it was very depressing. You know, there's no fans. The enthusiasm of the players was kind of low because you take that energy from the locker room and you take it out onto the field, and next thing you know, you look around, there's nobody there but your teammates. So I think that's the challenge I know here in the NFL. I know if you're allowed some fans down there at Alabama, you know, at least you'll have some type of excitement going on, and I'm sure that Coach Saban will get them fired up.
Marty, the players feed off of that energy. We were on the SEC teleconference earlier this morning, and I know Coach O had brought it up from LSU and said, well, you know, it's going to be weird going in Tiger Stadium, and you're going to be able to hear yourself talk. You're going to be able to hear. He said the players feed off that energy, and they certainly do. That's going to be something that they're going to have to energize themselves.
You know, well, without a doubt, that's why I said up here on our broadcast, you're really going to find out which one of these players for the Jets are true professionals. You know, you look to get motivated by your coach, but you got to motivate yourself. And then normally you'd run out there in a stadium that has 70, 80,000 people and everybody's cheering for you. That energy just flows from the stands right down to the field. And I think it's directly results in how you play. You know, you make a big play, you want to hear the fans get up. And unfortunately, with what we're going through as a nation, you can't have fans in the stadium, so you just got to go out there and play.
Marty, I want to dive into the book. We certainly want to talk some Alabama football with you and kind of remember camp days and what it was like under Coach Paul Bear Bryant. But I love when players can tell their story. And it's very simple, the book. If These Walls Could Talk, stories from the New York Jets, sideline, locker room, and press box. And we've featured you many times here on this radio program. We always love when you can share those stories. But kind of what motivated you to write the book?
Well, I think the only reason why I wrote the book in the first place was that after talking to the publishing company from Chicago, I told them, I said, you know, I didn't want football to define who I was. I said, you know, I've got over 40 years with the Jets, but I've got 38 years of running the Foundation for Terminally Ill Children. I said, if you agree that we can write a crossover book, that I can tell stories about the Jets, tell stories about the coaches and some of the players that I played with, and then the next chapter, take the readers inside an intensive care unit, what it's like to have a child that's sick. And sometimes we don't take time to look at our own lives and realize how fortunate we are because we never put ourselves in the shoes of parents that has a child that's sick, and they agreed to it. So I found the book very interesting to write. And, you know, when they tell you got to come up with 75,000 words, I didn't realize it would take me that long. But some of the replies that I've gotten back is, you know, I found myself laughing, I found myself crying, and now I find myself inspired. And I think if those three things are the reaction of the people that read the book, then the book was very successful. Plus, I signed over all the rights to the foundation. So from my end, 100% of all the money proceeds that I would get as an individual, I signed them over to the foundation in hopes that, you know, we can raise money for these kids. Unfortunately, I had to cancel most of my fundraisers this year, so I'm about $600,000 down, and they're still sick kids. And as long as there are sick kids out there, you know, I've got to keep finding ways to generate funds.
We're talking with Marty Lyons. The website, if you want to go out and look at what Marty has to offer, it's martylyonsfoundation.org. If you want to get involved, and there's different ways that you can get involved. But Marty, tell me one of those stories that something that maybe we can relate to from one of those wish stories. Take us inside that and something that inspired you. Then maybe we can share that inspiration with us.
Well, I tell you, there's so many kids that I write about in the book, but I remember, I was good friends with a little girl named Rosemary, and she came down with leukemia. And in the 80s, leukemia was just taking away so many lives. So, having a bad day at the office, you go over to visit the kids in the pediatric ward. And, when I got there, Rosemary was sleeping, but I stood at her door. And you look in, and here's a young lady that had a long, beautiful black hair, but now she was bald. She had beautiful olive skin, but now it was faded. And she had dark circles underneath her eyes. And her stomach was swollen. And I stood there for, I guess, about 15 minutes. And then she woke up, and the first thing she said was, "Oh, my God, where's my wig?" So I went in there, and we sat and we talked. We cried together. And it was just affected. We both knew that this was one that cancer was going to win again. So,
wow.
I try to pay tribute to all the kids. The ones that survive, you always thank them for showing us what real strength and courage is all about. For the ones that passed away, they made an impact while they were here. They taught me a very valuable lesson. One that Coach Bryant taught us at the university was, you got to have faith. And as long as you have faith, you shouldn't fear dying. And every one of these kids knew that they were here for a reason. They knew that their time here might be shortened by an illness. But to be honest with you, Ryan, they weren't afraid to die. And it was a valuable lesson, a life lesson.
Marty, when you look back, how did you get involved? Because you created this foundation. You talked about what you've been able to accomplish. I mean, I'm sitting here listening to you share those stories. I mean, that's an inspiration for all of us to get involved in some way. How did what grabbed you? How did you find this motivation? Because what you're doing is not easy. I mean, it's not easy going and doing what you're doing to raise money and to raise awareness. Where did you find the motivation?
Well, you know what? I think through life, God is going to challenge every one of us. And in 1982, my oldest son, Rocky, was born on March 4th. My dad suddenly died of a heart attack on March 8th at the age of 58. And a little boy that I was a big brother to died of leukemia at 5.5 on March 10th. So in a matter of 6 days, you go from the ultimate high to the ultimate low. I was 25 years old, professional athlete here in New York, and I kept asking myself, why? Why me? What am I doing wrong in life? And it wasn't that I was doing anything wrong in life. It was God's way of saying, hey, use the platform that you have and make a difference. It was what Coach Bryant had prepared me for. And I went in there to thank Coach Bryant for the opportunity to play the game of football and get an education at the university. He said, Marty, you'll be very fortunate. You'll play a game you love. You'll build financial security for you and your family. He said, but remember, a winner in the game of life is the person that gives of themselves so others can grow. And he told me that in 1979, and I never thought about that again until probably 2 months after my father and Keith died. And I said, wow, this is what Coach Bryant was talking about. Here it is. What am I going to do? Are you going to run away, or are you going to let death change you into a person that you don't like? Or are you going to use the platform of playing up here in New York and helping families and children that are being taken away way too early? So I reached out to a teammate of mine, Kenny Shroy. I reached out to the Jets, and I said, hey, I'd like to establish a foundation for terminally ill children, take their greatest wish in life, make it become a reality, give them that same feeling that I've had my at the University of Alabama and my early career with the Jets, feeling important, and they said, hey, we're going to support you 100%. Now, 38 years later, I'm proud to say that through their support and support of people around the nation, around, the tri-state area up here, people like Taco Casa and everybody down
Sure.
there, Rich Wingo, Murray Legg, and guys that have gotten behind it, we've raised over $35 million.
Oh, wow. Incredible.
And we operate now in, I believe it's 10 states, and we've helped over 8,000 families. So losing two people in 1982 was very difficult. But in losing those two, we've been able to help 8,000 families. So you can't run away from death, and you can't allow death to change you. You got to understand that if you have faith, you can move on. It doesn't mean that the pain ever goes away. You just find a way to cope with the pain and cope with the loss, and understand that, hey, life is going to continue for every one of us. You lose somebody on a Monday. They say time heals everything. I don't know whoever said that, Ryan, but I disagree with it. It doesn't heal everything. It gives you an opportunity to cope with it. And if you have faith, then you know that they're in a better place.
We're talking to Marty Lyons, which is an outstanding player at the University of Alabama, understands what it takes to win at the high level, and we're talking about his foundation. We're also going to work our way back to the book. But Marty, it's amazing as I'm sitting here listening to you. You talk about sometimes we're called in life to do things and we don't answer that call. You know what I mean? And it sounds like to me that this is something that God kind of put something on your life and said, hey, it's bigger than football. You use football to maybe get that message out, that outlet and that platform. But it seems like your mission in life is beyond football as you kind of open up.
It really is. I think everybody's mission should be beyond what they choose to do for their career. And if the publishing company from Chicago told me, hey, I'm sorry, you can't put these stories about the kids. This is a football book. I wouldn't have written it. I would have said thank you, but no thank you. At the age of 62, why would I want to do that? What I wanted to do was bring awareness to childhood cancer, to bring awareness to people that have healthy kids, give them a bird's eye view of somebody that has a child that's handicapped, that every single morning they get up, they move the child from the bed to a wheelchair, and they give them a bath, they put a diaper on them, they feed them, they take care of them, they put them on a school bus if they're able to go to school, they get them off the school bus, they feed them, they change their diaper, and that's every single day. Unconditional love. I mean, and then you realize that, they've been doing it for 10 to 15 years. I worked with a family up here that had 2 children that were born, that were on life support since the day that they were born. I met them when they were 5. The wish was for a generator because they were on life support. And when I met the family and I met the 2 boys, Eli and Joshua, you know what? They're beautiful young boys, but they were on life support. And when I talked to the parents, I said, I see you want a generator. Why do you need a generator? And they said, well, you see the boys, they're on life support. We lose power quite a bit, and we have backup batteries. But if it goes too long, like it did a couple of months ago, the nurse that is watching them came in and said, hey, if we don't get power pretty soon, which one of the 2 boys do you want me to hand resuscitate first? And I walked out of that house, and I said, you know what? I don't care what it takes. I'm going to get a generator. So I partnered up with a lot of companies up here in New York, and 2 months later, we had a generator in the backyard. We knew that one day that those 2 boys were going to be taken away, but it wasn't because they lost power. And I remember that day, Ryan, as if it was yesterday. Every one of us that donated some time, whether it was money or labor, we all thanked the parents They were thanking us. Well, we thank the parents for being good examples for us to learn from about unconditional love. They didn't institutionalize their children. They kept them at home. They renovated the house and took down a wall and made 2 bedrooms into 1 bedroom. And that was an intensive care unit where they had a 24-hour nurse. And it's something that if you have healthy kids and you don't bring yourself to the awareness that other people struggle in life, then we're not going to find a cure for childhood cancer. We're not going to solve the problems that the world is facing today unless we can sit down, have an honest conversation, everybody voice their opinion, but put ourselves in their shoes. And that's why, you know what, you're right. God confronted me, 38 years ago. I could have kept on being miserable, kept on being bitter, kept on saying, why me? And the more you find yourself saying, why me, you're really saying, why not somebody else? I can't handle this, God. And I could handle it. Once I got involved with it, I had people like Rich Wingo, who I played with. He lives down there in Tuscaloosa, has been a mentor for me for 35 years. I'd call him from a parking lot of a hospital and say, Rich, I just left this family. What am I supposed to do? And he would give me the right attitude, the faith to say, hey, you know what? This is what you got to do. This is how you got to handle this. This is what you got to tell the parent. And when you have people like that are in your corner, failing's not an option. And when you have people that support your mission and they see the end result that, yeah, you know what, maybe we, brought some happiness to that family. Maybe it was only for a day, but sometimes it's for a lifetime. Sometimes we're working with kids that we know are being cheated out of life, and we can't say whether they're going to make it or they're not going to make it. And then all of a sudden, God gives you back one, and you go, wow, He gave us back one. And that's what we try to do. We try to get back as many as we can.
We're talking to Marty Lyons, a legendary player at the University of Alabama. The book was released yesterday, and you can order it on your favorite bookshelves throughout the great state here, or maybe it's on one of the online sites. If These Walls Could Talk, New York Jets, stories from the New York Jets sidelines, locker room, press box, as Marty tells his story as the 15, 16 minutes that he's visiting with us. And Marty, I'm already telling you, I think I'm going to go long for just a couple of extra minutes. I'd like to get maybe a couple of more questions in. The book, if you want to get behind Marty, it helps with his foundation. As he said, he signs over the rights to it and give it a chance to make up some of the ground that he's lost with COVID, as all of us impact. But you can go out and spend $15 on the book and get behind one of these Alabama guys. And Marty's been doing it for a long time. He was recognized as the Walter Payton Player of the Year, which recognizes community service and what he's able to do. And we get behind Marty and we talk about this book. Marty, take me into a locker room. Just a favorite story there that you can kind of share. And I know it's a unique place. There's a lot of things that happens in the locker room that us out in the public don't see. But take us into one of those conversations, maybe a conversation that takes you back to where you were there and you kind of witnessed something taking place.
Well, I'll take you back to Alabama first,
Okay.
And then we'll
Sure.
jump to the NFL. I was very fortunate to have great teammates. Rich Wingo, Barry Krause, Murray Legg, Tony Nathan, Jeff Rutledge, just to mention a few. And every day out there at practice, we pushed one another. We competed against one another. And some days we won, some days we lost. But everybody had everybody's back. So when I got to the NFL, coming from Alabama, the one thing Coach Bryant always stressed was show your class, don't get in any fights. And I want to say it's about the fourth game my rookie year, and a fight breaks out, and Joe Kleckel was in the middle of it. And, so I went in there. I tried to bear hug him, and I pulled him out of out of the fight, and got back to the huddle. And he looked at me and he says, if you ever do that again, I'm going to kick your tail right here in front of everybody. And he says, you either fight with me or you leave me alone. And it was in 1979, I realized that the NFL is a livelihood, and sometimes you have to fight. But I realized at that point, I had one guy that had my back, and that was Joe Klecko. And, now 42 years later, you look back at that friendship, it still exists. We talk, weekly. That's what the game of football does. It brings players together, and it doesn't matter about the color of your skin or what religion you believe in. There's a trust, there's a bond, and certainly everybody wants to win the Super Bowl. Everyone wants to win a national championship. But if you don't, those friendships that you have, you should be able to keep intact if you take the responsibility upon yourself to pick up the phone. Everybody always says, you know what, boy, I wish I haven't heard from you in a while. Well, you know what, my phone rings as easy as yours does. And I learned that from a boy named Steven. Steven was dying of cancer. I walked in there, the first thing I said to him, I said, Steven, you keep fighting. Everything's going to be all right. He says, I know I am. He goes, I'm going to go to heaven. The next day I went back to see him. I took Herm Edwards with me. At the end of about a 20-minute meeting with Stephen, Herm looks at him and says, Stephen, if you need anything, just tell Marty, and we'll make it happen. Stephen looked at him and said, hey, you know what, Coach, can you call my dad? My dad is really the big Jet fan. And that day I learned that, to Stephen, it was more important for Herm Edwards to do something for his father rather than do something for him. So, you know what? Don't take for granted that what you want to do tomorrow can wait till tomorrow. If you feel like calling somebody, call them today. Pick up the phone. It's not just going to help them, it's going to help you.
Marty, I could talk with you for the rest of the day. I hope we can come back and visit again. I when I go by Taco Casa and I get a taco burger, hot, no tomatoes, a couple of Sanchos, some burrito. I mean, I always think about you. How much do you love Taco Casa, Marty?
Well, put it this much. We were in lockdown up here once the coronavirus hit. And I was out working remotely from home for, I want to say 80 days.
Okay.
And I talked to Brett down there at Taco Casa. I got 2 shipments, sent to me from down there up there. I had a Taco Casa party on my back deck. So, yeah, I love those guys. They have been very good to the foundation. They've been very good to me personally. And, the fans there in the state of Alabama has, in 2011, when I got inducted to the College Football Hall of Fame, I took all the fans, all my teammates, my coaches. I was proud to represent the University of Alabama then, and I'm still very proud to represent them.
Well, there's no doubt, Marty. I mean, you've been recognized, as one of the all-time greats here. But something tells me when that day it comes and you meet our Savior Jesus Christ, He's going to look at you and say, that place over there, that's yours. You're going to have an extra couple of bricks for all the work that you have given here on this earth, and I appreciate you.
He's probably going to say, "Well, you've done some good, but there's some bad."
Sure.
things.
Well, we're all going. Yeah, I mean, we're all going to have that.
Don't forget. You know what? There's nobody perfect. There's nobody perfect, and
but you're doing an extra something that most people
Ryan,
can't do.
It's not just me. It's not just me. And you know what? I'd be very selfish to sit here and tell you it is all me. It's not. If I didn't have the support of my family, my friends, the people that I don't even know sending in money, people that got behind a 25-year-old athlete in 1982 from the University of Alabama that said, hey, I want to start a foundation. People believed in the mission because I think they saw the commitment that I had. And when times get tough and sometimes, you go, how much longer can I go? I always run into a family, and God puts that family in my life. And I'll be coming out of a store and somebody will say, "Hey, are you Marty Lyons?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You know what? I never had a chance to thank you, but you helped our child in 1988.
Oh, wow.
And I'll go, "Well, how's your son or daughter doing?" They go, "Unfortunately, she passed away." And I always say how sorry I am, and they go, "Don't be, because if it wasn't for you, your organization, we would have no memories to hold on to." And that's the type of inspiration that you need to say, "God, I need to do more. I can't think about, hey, how it's getting so tough to find money. It's getting tough to do this, getting tough to do that. Maybe the foundation has run its course. Maybe it's time to end it." No, it's not time to end it. Just time to work harder.
Well, Marty, please let us know how we can help. I've enjoyed the conversation. Let me invite people one more time. It's martylionsfoundation.org. The book is available. And if you're out there and you say, "Hey, I'm not able to get behind in one way," but buy the book. Buy the book. As Marty said, all the proceeds go to that If These Walls Could Talk, New York Jets, stories from the New York Jets sidelines, locker room, press box. And Marty Lyons tells that stories that will touch your heart. Marty Lyons just publishing the book yesterday. Marty, thank you for being a part of the show. I've enjoyed the conversation. Let's catch up very, very soon. And roll tide to you. I hope all is well. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you, Ryan. And if any of the listeners want a autographed copy, if they just go to the foundation and order it through the foundation, I'll be more than happy to sign it, and we'll ship it down to you. Make it easy for you.
Very, very easy, and a great gift idea as well. MartyLyonsFoundation.org, MartyLyonsFoundation.org. Marty, thank you for your time. I hope you have a great day, sir.
You got it, Ryan. Thank you for your friendship. Roll Tide, and everybody stay well.
Thank you. Thank you.